All right, let's jump right in today. We're going to do a deep dive into Matthew 18.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, we're talking about humility, accountability, forgiveness.
Some big topics there.
Really getting to the heart of what it means to live in God's kingdom.
Absolutely.
So, think of it like a journey.
Okay.
Through like interconnected ideas.
I like that. A journey.
A roadmap for navigating relationships. Mm-hmm. Inside and outside the church.
You know, what's so fascinating to me about Matthew 18
is
it takes these huge concepts, right?
Yeah.
Humility, accountability, these huge things.
Yeah.
And it makes them incredibly practical.
It really does.
You know, you might think, oh, Matthew 18, I've heard that before.
Been there, done that.
Sunday school. Yeah, exactly. But there's this surprising depth here, and it really speaks to everyday life.
Yeah.
You know, even if you've kind of walked this path before, there's always something new to discover.
Always, yeah. Okay, so to kind of kick us off here, the chapter starts with the disciples. They come to Jesus and ask, who's the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's kind of like a power move, right?
Oh, totally.
I mean, they're living in a world that is obsessed with status.
Right.
You know, who's up, who's down.
Exactly. And that's what makes Jesus's answer so radical.
Oh, yeah.
He calls a child over.
Yeah.
And says, whoever humbles themselves like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven.
Mic drop.
It's a total paradigm shift.
Boom. Yeah.
You know, it's not what they were expecting at all.
No. It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
What if true power comes from surrendering control?
Whoa.
From admitting that, I need something bigger than myself.
Right.
That's a challenging concept, even now.
Yeah, it is. But that's the essence of childlike faith, right? It's not about being naive or childish.
Right.
But it's about having that humility, that dependence on God. You know, a child doesn't try to prove anything. They just trust.
It's so true. So how do we tap into that as adults?
Right.
I mean, we can't go back to wearing footy pajamas.
We can't exactly do that, no. But we can cultivate that same openness, you know, that willingness to learn, to be taught. We can remember we don't have all the answers, right? We need God's grace just as much as anyone else.
That's true. And that leads right into the next section where Jesus talks about, causing little ones to stumble.
Ooh, yeah.
And he uses some pretty strong language.
Yeah, he does.
Talks about millstones and, the depths of the sea.
Right. Serious stuff. Makes you wonder, who are these little ones?
Yeah.
You know, children for sure.
Yeah.
But maybe new believers, anyone who's kind of vulnerable, easily influenced.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing our impact. You know, the impact that we have on others.
It's like that saying, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle.
Oh, I love that.
You know, we never know how our words
or actions might affect someone's faith.
Precisely. It's a call to examine our own lives, right?
Yeah.
To ask ourselves, am I building people up?
Right.
Or am I tearing them down? Because even unintentional actions can have consequences.
That's so true. And then Jesus, he tells this beautiful story.
Yeah.
The parable of the lost sheep.
One of my favorites.
A shepherd leaves 99 sheep to go search for the one that's lost.
It's an image that just sticks with you, isn't it?
It does.
That relentless pursuit, that shepherd's love for even one, lost sheep. It's a glimpse into the very heart of God.
Oh, I love that. You know, what I find striking is the joy in heaven when that lost sheep is found. It's like one person turning back to God is this huge victory.
It is.
Worth celebrating.
Absolutely. You know, it completely flips our perspective. It's not about the numbers.
Yeah.
Or achievements.
Right.
It's about each individual soul being precious to God.
And then things take a bit of a turn.
Okay. What do you mean? Well, we've got this humility. We've got, watching our influence on others and this incredible picture of God's love. But then Jesus shifts the focus to conflict resolution within the church.
Oh, okay.
He lays up these steps for dealing with sin in the community.
Right.
Starting with a one-on-one conversation. This part always makes me squirm a bit. It's so much easier to avoid those tough conversations.
Yes.
But if we're serious about this whole forgiveness thing,
right,
maybe this is where the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely. And, it's not about being judgmental or, harsh.
Right.
It's about restoration. Jesus outlines a process, right? You start with private confrontation,
Yep.
then, if needed, bringing in witnesses, and finally, involving church leadership.
It sounds like a process that requires a lot of humility from everyone involved.
Oh, for sure.
No one's like pointing fingers or holding a grudge.
Right. The goal is reconciliation, right? To bring healing and unity to the community. Remember, we're all part of the same body.
So it's less about like punishing someone for wrongdoing and more about helping them get back on track.
Exactly. It's about holding each other accountable while remembering, we all need grace. Which brings us to that powerful story of the unmerciful servant.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Buckle up.
Man, this parable, it's a real gut punch, isn't it?
It is.
A king forgives his servant an enormous debt.
Right.
But then that same servant turns around and refuses to forgive a much smaller debt owed to him.
It's crazy.
It's like, dude, seriously.
Right. The contrast is it's shocking. And it really forces us to look in the mirror, and ask ourselves, am I holding on to unforgiveness? That's actually blocking my own experience of God's grace.
Ouch. Yeah. It's so easy to point fingers at that servant in the story.
Right.
But I think we've all been there at some point, right?
We have.
Holding a grudge, nursing a hurt, letting bitterness just fester.
Yeah. It's human nature, right?
It is.
But Jesus is making a clear connection here, right?
Yeah.
Receiving God's forgiveness and extending that same forgiveness to others. They're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, it's not about minimizing the wrong that was done to us.
Right.
But choosing to release that anger.
Yeah.
That resentment. And that can be really hard, especially when we feel justified in our anger.
It is. It is. Forgiveness is a choice. And it's not always easy, but it's the path to freedom, to healing. When we hold on to unforgiveness, we're the ones who end up in prison.
It's true. This whole deep dive is making me realize just how radical Jesus's teachings are.
I know, right?
It's not about following a bunch of rules.
Yeah.
It's about a complete transformation of the heart.
Absolutely. It's about becoming more like Christ, embodying his humility, his compassion, his relentless love. And that's a lifelong journey, not a one-time event.
And it's a journey we don't have to take alone, right?
No, we don't. We have each other.
Yeah.
We have the church community, and we have the Holy Spirit guiding us.
That's so important. We need each other to support, encourage, and challenge each other along the way. We weren't meant to do this Christian life in isolation.
So,
this conversation has been so eye-opening. I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of what Matthew 18 is really about.
Me too. Me too. And what strikes me is how relevant this chapter is to our lives today.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just ancient history.
Right.
It's a living word that speaks to the challenges that we face in our relationships, in our communities.
Absolutely. Whether it's navigating conflict in our families, dealing with difficult coworkers, or seeking reconciliation in our churches, the principles of humility, accountability, and forgiveness are so essential.
And they're not always easy to live out, are they? It takes intentionality.
Yeah.
It takes grace. It takes a willingness to, put aside our own pride, our own ego.
But the rewards are so worth it.
They are.
When we choose to follow Christ's example in these areas, we experience the transformative power of his love in our own lives and in the lives of those around us.
Imagine a world where everyone embraced these principles.
Wow.
It wouldn't be a perfect world.
No.
But it would be a world filled with more grace, more understanding, more unity.
That's a beautiful vision. And it starts with each of us, right? Right here, right now, making the choice to live out these truths in our own lives.
Exactly. We can't change the world overnight.
Right.
But we can change our own hearts.
Yeah.
And those small changes can have a ripple effect that spreads outward.
I used to think of Matthew 18 as kind of a rule book.
Oh, yeah.
Like a list of do's and don'ts for how to be a good Christian. But now I see it so differently.
How so?
It's not about following rules. It's about becoming a certain kind of person. It's about cultivating a heart that's humble, compassionate, and quick to forgive. It's about reflecting the character of God in our interactions with others.
I love that. It's about transformation, not just information. It's about letting the truth of Matthew 18 sink deep into our souls and change us from the inside out.
And that change doesn't happen overnight. It's a process.
Right.
A journey. But it's the most worthwhile journey we could ever embark on.
It is. And the beautiful thing is we don't have to do it perfectly.
Right.
We're all works in progress,
Yeah.
stumbling and learning along the way. But God's grace is always there to pick us up and set us back on the right path.
It's like that image of the shepherd leaving the 99 to search for the one lost sheep. God never gives up on us, even when we wander off.
And there's so much rejoicing when that lost sheep is found. It's a reminder that our efforts, our struggles to live out these principles, they matter. They have eternal significance.
This has been such a rich conversation. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of Matthew 18. But even so, it's given me so much to think about, to chew on. Yeah. And that's what makes it exciting, right? There's always more to discover, more to learn, more to, apply to our lives. It's like this ancient text is still speaking to us.
I know, today.
In ways that are fresh and relevant.
It's just the power of the Bible, isn't it?
Yeah.
A living word that transcends time and culture. And Matthew 18 in particular just holds this incredible wisdom about how we relate to God and to each other.
So, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive,
what
would you say is the key takeaway for our listener? What's that one nugget of truth?
Good question.
That they can carry with them?
I think Matthew 18 challenges us to examine our hearts. It's a call to action, an invitation to live out these principles of humility, accountability, and radical forgiveness.
Yeah, it's not just about reading the words or understanding the concepts. It's about letting them transform our lives.
Yeah. Exactly. It's about asking ourselves those tough questions. Am I living with humility? Am I recognizing my need for God? Am I valuing others as He does? Am I mindful of my influence on those around me? Am I willing to forgive as I have been forgiven?
Those are questions that can keep us up at night.
Yeah, they can.
But in a good way.
Yeah.
It's like this ongoing self-reflection.
Right.
This constant striving to be more like Christ.
And the beautiful thing is, we don't have to do it perfectly.
That's good news.
We're all works in progress, stumbling, learning along the way. But God's grace is always there to pick us up and set us back on the right path.
It's like that image of the shepherd leaving the 99 to search for the one lost sheep. God never gives up on us, even when we wander off.
And there's so much rejoicing when that lost sheep is found, you know?
Yeah.
It's just this beautiful reminder that our efforts, our struggles to live out these principles, they matter. They have eternal significance.
Well, this has been such a rich conversation. I feel like we've only scratched the surface of Matthew 18. But even so, it's given me so much to think about.
Me too.
To chew on.
I hope our listener feels the same way. Maybe this will spark a desire to dive back into the scriptures to explore these themes in more depth, Yeah. Because ultimately, that's where the real transformation happens, right? When we engage with God's word and allow it to shape our hearts and our minds.
Absolutely. It's a lifelong journey of discovery and growth. And as we walk this path together, let's remember those key principles from Matthew 18. Humility, accountability, and that radical life-changing forgiveness.
So good. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into Matthew 18 today.
It does. It really does.
Until next time, may you be filled with God's grace and peace.
And may you be inspired to live out the truth of Matthew 18, bringing healing and unity to the world around you.